this is a reality that we have here.
And the scary thing is, you know, if you look at the statistics, 90% of the time in the United States, the candidate that has the most money wins the election. 90% of the time. And so when you have a situation where you have these corporations which care, their fiduciary duty, their duty is to make money for the corporation. And if they're out there saying what a great candidate this person is or saying what a bad candidate this candidate is, they don't really care. They care about their bottom line. That is what they're legally obligated to care about. They don't care that this person maybe is great on Denali Kid Care, maybe great on helping foster kids. They care about their bottom line. And so what this bill does is it forces them to disclose that, who they are. That's the key. So the public knows, the public can digest that.
And people should be looking at that, even if someone doesn't seem to be the healthiest choice for the oil companies or for Pebble Partnership or for timber or for whatever else. Maybe people should look a little closer and see how healthy they are for the state. Because, you know, I know both of you have done tremendous work that have helped so many people, and they're not the people that are necessarily going to be voting. I mean, foster kids don't necessarily vote, even when they're 18 and they keep going.
They do now. So let me give some credit to some of the Republicans too, right? I mean, what I was fearful of was that Exxon and Conoco would try and take over the election system, and Conoco's become, I think, one of the biggest donors in the state through their PAC, and they give money to Republicans. British Petroleum gives money to Republicans, but you know what? Bob Lynn's a Republican, Paul Seaton's a Republican, and they stood with us to try and fix this. And the truth is, you know, you could have outside sort of environmental groups, you could have PETA, you could have you know, outside trust children who are anti-democratic or anti-Republican, and they could just buy an election. And the truth is, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you do not want people with money buying elections. You know, there are good Republicans, good Democrats out there who said this was the right thing to do, you know. And you know,
what I'd really like to see are the not for sale signs that would, you could go to Juneau, walk down the hall and see whose office has a not for sale sign. And then I think that there should be people, when they're on the floor, that should be wearing jumpsuits that are like NASCAR that say Exxon, BP, Pebble, whatever. And so you actually know. And what if it says this, the teachers union, firefighters, you know, Clare House, or, you know, these different, you know, the Covenant House, or who is buying who? Because I think it's great people contribute. I do. I think it's important that people show up for the candidates that they really want to see win and will follow up with. But I'd like to see who everybody's getting bought by. And you can do that online. You can go look and see who's bought and sold by who. Yeah. But I've seen Paul Seaton vote against his own best interests when he could have made millions off of a vote himself personally. You know, there are people, and I don't agree with how he votes all the time, but he's stretched, but you could at least have a conversation with someone that they're not sliding under the door when they're ready to go home. You know who you are, Kevin Meyer. Anyway, so there was one thing that really, really bothered me down there. Well, there were several, but the one was the cruise ship rollback tax. My understanding is Sean Parnell went on a little junket to Miami and came home with a bill pretty much written to go against the will of the people when we had a ballot initiative and decided we were going to tax cruise ship passengers so that we could pay to clean up our water permitted and all this stuff. We made that vote, and he basically went against the will of people by introducing that, and then that bill went forward.
Yeah, I voted against the bill for a couple of reasons, and I gave a pretty long floor speech about it. I know Les was real active on the House side as well.
Oscar nomination.
But what I said was, look, when the people vote through the initiative process, through the constitutionally granted initiative process, then that sets a very high bar for us, and we should think very carefully before rolling that back. The people spoke in 2006. In 2007, the number of cruise ship passengers increased. In 2008, the number of cruise ship passengers again increased. Now, you look at 2009, we had an economic meltdown, the worst depression, the worst recession since the Great Depression. So, of course, the number of cruise ship passengers decreased, and the cruise ship companies saw this as an opportunity. They took full advantage of the opportunity. They hired practically every lobbyist in the building. I remember going to cast my vote on the Senate floor. It was like a gauntlet of lobbyists that I had to walk through to get there. And and you know, they have a lot of sway. They have a lot of clout down there. They bought in a lot of small businesses. They scared a lot of the small businesses into thinking that this was somehow going to bring back passengers. And in fact, if you look at the settlement agreement that our Attorney General Sullivan negotiated, because there was a lawsuit filed by the cruise ship industry, the Attorney General said, okay, I'm going to settle this lawsuit. We have to give you these big tax breaks, tens of millions of dollars. In exchange, we get nothing. We get nothing. If you look at the settlement agreement, it says, well, we'll think about coming back if the economic conditions prevail and our marketing strategy, our marketing decisions decide to bring more ships back to Alaska. That's the settlement agreement. That's what we got out of giving tens of millions of dollars back to the cruise ship industry.
I heard $22 million a year.
22 million. I mean, look, the cruise ship companies did what the oil companies do. Instead of saying, we want your money, they bring in small businesses. They tell the small businesses, they give them the talking points, and they say, please help us. So here, the cruise ship companies wanted the money back. So they tell the small businesses, get us a cruise ship head tax reduction, and it'll be good for you. But this is what the cruise ship folks admitted when I asked them the questions. If we roll back your cruise ship head tax, are you bringing the ships back? No, they said. Well, that's interesting. What we also want, they said, is for the state to give us more money into state-funded advertising. So I said, well, if we give you the cruise ship head tax rollback and we put more money into state-funded advertising for you, will you bring the ships back? No, they said. They said, we want that, and we want state money, and we want you to change environmental laws. And then I said, well, will you bring the ships back then? And they said, well, you know, maybe. Well, at some point, first of all, you want me to give you all three, and then you're going to say maybe? Well, come back another day.
Can you imagine being on a date with these guys?
You might be able to convince the Attorney General to settle a lawsuit on those conditions, which is we get zero and you get everything. But we get zero and you get everything is not a deal for me. And here's what here's the logic. Okay, they reduced the head tax by $30. Cruise ship passengers pay between $2,500 and $4,500 or $5,000 for their plane fare, their cruise, the money they spend in Alaska. If you're going to spend $2,550 to $5,000, is spending $2,580 or $5,030 is moving it from $5,030 to $5,000 going to change your decision, or does the economy have to come back so you get the $5,000?
Right. There were like headlines everywhere that said, you know, here's a coupon, come to Alaska, it's for $40, and now we're like, you know, they're beating our doors down. I mean, that was basically...
The public needs to get the $2,500 bucks back before they come back, not the $30. And when the economy is better, the cruise ship passengers will come back. You can't face the biggest economic meltdown in 80 years and think everything is going to be okay, you know? And the cruise ship companies use that to get some folks to roll back the cruise ship tax. More power to them, but they were deceptive about it.
Shocking. An industry that's deceptive to Alaskans. Well, we've been colonized. What the hell? I'm Shannyn Moore. This is More Up North. We'll be back with questions from our audience in just a couple minutes. Welcome back. Now it's time for my lifelines to really shine. Yes. I'm so glad you guys are here. We should do this more often without cameras so we can say what we really mean. No, I'm kidding. Like I ever don't. So Senator Wielechowski and Representative Les Gara, Eddie Burke or Jay Ramrus?
I hate to say that.
Oh, you know. You know what? That's really scary. That I think. Oh, do we have another option yet?
No. I can't vote in that primary because it's a closed primary.
That's right. Nice. Either legislator, what do you think the chances are to pass a law for publicly funded campaigns like the initiative that failed in 2008, the Alaskans for Clean Elections? Great question. I wish that would have passed.
I sponsored the bill in the Senate. It didn't got 4 committee referrals, didn't get through its first committee. There's zero chance it will pass through the legislature. It would have to be a voter initiative.
Yeah.
But that's probably about the best thing we could do for our government.
You mean to make it healthier?
Yeah.
I think you're right. Next question. What happened to the idea of the natural gas LNG power plant burning on the North Slope with transmission lines to the grid in central Alaska? Or I would think it was to Fairbanks. Whatever happened with that? We talked about that on the radio. I know everybody's so excited about a gas line. I'm like, let's just put some lines in. It'll be cheaper, faster, and give us electricity.
You know, it's an interesting question. The people that I've heard from say it's not feasible, but we can look at it again. I know they do it in other countries.
They do it in other countries. And
if you want to monetize your gas and get maximum value for the benefit, you know, you have so much gas up there, your best bet's a pipeline, I think.
The pipeline's what's going to produce revenue for the state. Certainly it should be looked at, but until you start shipping huge amounts of natural gas to the lower 48 or Asia, the state needs money when oil starts declining. Oil is declining, and that's where we get our money from.
Well, I think that if we could get energy or power to Alaskans in the short time, because I don't think this would take the same amount of time as a gas line by any stretch, then we could get people having that, and then we could sell even more gas. Just saying. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, do the work. Come on.